Welcome to the show. I thought what we might talk about this week is food and... My name's Mischke. I thought what we might talk about this week is food and... I want to talk about food and... I want to talk about food and something else, I guess. I want to talk about food, but I don't want to just talk about food. I want to add something to the food discussion. Food should be in there, but I want something more. I want to add something. Food and what? What goes with food? I want to talk food, and I want to talk... Golly, nothing's coming to mind right now. Food and... Who has an idea out there? Anyone? I want to talk about food and... cars. No, that's not it. Shoot. Food and... I know, food and sex. I want to talk about food and sex on the show. There we go. Food and sex. Yeah, sex and food. Good food and wicked sex, or wicked food and good sex, or good wicked sex food. It's just anything and everything having to do with food and sex. I think that will be... I don't know, how you say, interesting? Nah, very interesting. Good. Glad we worked that through together. Appreciate your help, folks. There it is, food and sex. That will be after our first break. Food and sex, or maybe just sex. I don't know, but I think food should be in there somewhere, just a little bit. Anyway, that's after the break, when I have a professor from the University of Victoria on the show. She's up there in British Columbia, Canada, and she's been thinking about food and sex for a long time now. Maybe you have too, huh? If so, tell me how that started for you exactly. What prompted that? What were you eating, and just what the hell happened? You freak? I mean, I understand. No, seriously, I get it. Anyway, for now, staying just this side of the break, we're going to go in a completely different direction. Cars. I think we'll talk about cars. Yeah, did I mention cars earlier? I think I said cars with the sex thing, but I'm just going to go with cars. The reason I want to talk about cars right now is that hardly anyone gets in any car accidents, and I'm wondering how the hell that's possible. I repeat, hardly anyone gets in any car accidents, and I don't get it. And I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking all sorts of people get in all sorts of car accidents. No, not really. And that's what I want to talk about. I mean, you take a look at all the cars out there. I did. Just the other day, I went looking for cars, and I found them. I found them by the hundreds. I found them by the thousands out there, on back roads, on city streets, crowding the freeways, bumper to bumper on highways, cars everywhere. But I did not find an accident. I went looking for an accident, and I didn't find one. You would think I'd have found 8, 9, maybe 12 accidents. Think about it. Cars are driving past each other. They're driving around each other. They're crossing in front of each other. They're moving at high speeds. They're making maneuvers. We have cities filled with cars. Everywhere you look, cars, moving cars. Very little distance between a lot of these cars, a lot of the time. But no one's crashing. At least I didn't see anyone crashing. And I was looking for an accident. I'm trying to find them, and I can't. How is that possible? What I'm trying to say here is it's really extraordinary how good everyone is at driving. You would think, with humans behind the wheel, humans who are endlessly screwing up in this world, you would think there'd be accidents all over the place. But in fact, we are really great at driving. Driving close to each other, driving around each other, driving in front of each other, crossing behind each other, passing each other. It's masterful. It's like a ballet out there. A choreographed ballet. How do we do it? Do you ever ask that? How do we do it? I mean, I know there are accidents. There must be. But when you go looking on a particular day and you can't find any, but you can find thousands of cars driving around, well, isn't that quite outstanding? I went out a second day looking for car accidents. Again, I couldn't find one. Thousands more cars driving around. None of them were hitting each other. People just did such a great job of avoiding a collision over and over again. They steered clear of each other. And these are people. You know people, right? People, boneheaded people, average people who mess up all the time in life. But they were doing such a swell job behind the wheel. I wanted to commend every single one of them. I mean, you really analyze this and you think, we're driving down the road with a little line between us, and we're all agreeing to stay on our side of the line as we roar past each other. But all it takes is one person failing to honor that agreement, and kaboom! More than kaboom, 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 kaboom! Chain reaction, kaboom, kaboom! Chain reaction, kaboom, kaboom! Kaboom, 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 kaboom! Chain reaction, kaboom, kaboom! Stop it! Stop it! One person fails to honor the agreement and look out, and yet I could not find an accident, a crash. Extraordinary. People are honoring their agreement out there. But even if they honor their agreement, there could be a stroke, there could be a heart attack, there could be an aneurysm. A kid could run out in the street, causing a person to swerve into oncoming traffic. A dog could do the same. Chain reaction, kaboom, kaboom. Stop it! People are vulnerable to all sorts of unpredictable things. But wow, the city was just moving on those 2 days I went out like a Swiss watch, like a well-oiled machine. We were all damn near showing off the way we kept avoiding smashing into each other. Everybody was kind of showing off. Look, I'm driving close to this guy and I'm not hitting him. Hey, I'm crossing in front of this guy, missed him. Hey, watch this, going around this guy, missed him. I'm going to go around the block, go around him again, missed him again. I'll tell you something in all seriousness. This so inspired me that I did some research. Who gets in the most accidents out of everyone? Who gets in the most accidents? Do you know? What age person gets in the most accidents? Turns out it's not even close. 16 and 17-year-olds get in the most accidents. And doesn't that make sense? They're just figuring out this whole driving thing. But when they get it down, well, then they blend in with the other folks. Then they become decent drivers. See, it really is something we get quite good at. And here's another stat. Put this in your pipe and torque on it for an afternoon or two. Fully 1/3 of people in America never get in any accident at any point in their entire lives. Did you hear me? Fully 1/3 of people in America, 1/3 never, ever get in an accident. Their entire lives. That's a miracle. How is that possible? Are you people superhuman? You should want to get in an accident at least once just to be able to relate to other people, just to feel human, just to feel normal, just to feel alive. Come on, I've been in 7 accidents. 7. How many of those were my fault? I don't know. If I were to hazard a guess, all of them, every one of them. And I would have gotten into a lot more, but the other drivers were again so damn good, they avoided me even when I tried to hit them. That's what I'm saying here. There are great drivers out there, and we never celebrate this. You know what a cliché is in America? A cliché is a guy getting in front of a microphone bitching about the drivers in this part of the country, bitching about those drivers over there, bitching about women drivers, bitching about men drivers. Where do you live? Oh, I've been down there. Drivers are terrible down. Stop it! Stop it! There are good drivers out there everywhere you look, every day. Really good drivers. 1/3 of people never get in an accident their entire life. If you go to your grave never having been in an accident, there's a whole lot you don't know about living, camper. You don't know the sound, the sickening sound of metal hitting metal, that loud, horrible bam, slam, wham, kabam. I hear it in my dreams still. I feel it in my bones still, just from my 7 accidents. My body remembers all the accidents. They're raw, they're primal. If you haven't been in an accident, you don't know the lurching sensation that hits your body at high velocity as you realize you are but a puppet and the universe pulls the strings. You have no control. You are a little plaything, tossed around, thrown around, careening hither and yon. You're like a human pinball. If you have not been in an accident, you don't know that feeling of getting out of your vehicle and walking to the other vehicle and the other driver and saying, how about we just forget this ever happened and go on our merry way? No need to involve the cops. They're busy chasing real criminals. Let me give you a fake phone number and some bogus insurance information and just allow me to get the hell out of here, okay? Until you've done that and then driven away laughing your ass off, you don't know what life is like out there. Not deep in the marrow of it all. All right, time to take a break and get ready for some food and some sex. And some sex and some food. Bunch of good food, bunch of wicked sex. A man named Austin Aiken sued NBC for $2.5 million after watching an episode of Fear Factor that he claimed made him vomit and run straight into a wall. What set him off was witnessing participants consuming rats that were previously ground up in a blender. He said his blood pressure rose immediately, and he lost any sense of his surroundings. He took off running in fear and went straight into a wall. Bradshaw and Bryant would not have taken this case, although they would have enjoyed the good laugh. Your case, however, they will take, because you truly were injured by someone who was reckless and careless, and Bradshaw and Bryant plan to balance the scales of justice and make you whole with a financial compensation package sure to comfort and calm your violated essence. What? Best part, you don't pay them a dime unless they get you the dough. You cannot lose, camper. Learn more at MinnesotaPersonalInjury.com. Spectacle Shop is obviously a step above the other optical stores in the Twin Cities. It would have to be, logically, given the fact that Spectacle Shop wins every media poll ever conducted. It just won the Women's Press media poll. It just won St. Paul Minneapolis Magazine's media poll. Spectacle Shop has won Star Tribune's media poll every year they've had a media poll. At a certain point, you have to realize Spectacle Shop operates in rarefied air. Well, guess what? They're having an exclusive 4-day $59 frame sale May 15th through the 18th. No better deal awaits you anywhere in the state. Not when it comes to eyewear. Frames normally $250 to $800, just $59 if you purchase prescription lenses. Now's the time. This is the moment. Don't let this one pass you by. Make it easy on yourself and go to the website and make an appointment. They'll get you in, they'll get you out. This is only at their New Brighton location. 4 days, May 15th through the 18th. Learn more about it at spectacleshop.com. There's a book I'm holding right now with the title Lustful Appetites, an intimate history of good food and wicked sex. Historian Rachel Hope Cleves explores the long association between indulging in good food and an appetite for sex. Lustful Appetites reveals how this preoccupation changed the ways we eat and the ways we are intimate, as well as how stigmas persist well into our 21st century. I welcome to the show Rachel Hope Cleves, coming to us all the way from British Columbia, where she is a professor of history at the University of Victoria. I want to start out by saying that when I first came across your book, Rachel, I realized I had spent very little, if any, time in my life contemplating the relationship between food and sex. And I found myself wondering if I'm unusual in that way, or if it's just that a lot of people don't think about it that much, even though if you do think about it, you can begin to find all sorts of connections. I decided that what it was I'm the opposite of a foodie. I don't know my way around a kitchen. I never spend any time in a kitchen. I never make anything. I know nothing about preparing food. I realize that alone must make it where I would have fewer connections connecting food and sex. Does that make sense? Or have you run into a lot of people who haven't connected it? And I don't mean connected it to the degree that you've connected it. I mean, people just don't think about it that often.
Oh, usually I find people do connect food and sex. They might not have given it a lot of thought, but it's so embedded in our language and in metaphors, you know? So,
So there it is. There it is. I'm the oddball. And again, when I start to read your book, I go, oh, yeah, oh, yeah, oh, yeah, sure. I've thought of that, I guess. Oh, yeah, I remember that scene. Yeah, I remember thinking about that. And it begins to come together. But still, I think with a lot of people out there, particularly perhaps those who spend a lot of time in the culinary world, I think the connections are more commonplace, more understandable, more accepted. Of course, your book takes it to an extreme in that we find it everywhere and the wildest connections and strangest relationships going back centuries. But in general, you find that average people connect food and sex.
yes, I would say that when I talk about this project with people, they get it.
My state is such that it would even make more sense for you to write this book because you're awakening me to all this stuff I didn't know about, particularly the whole history with restaurants and the connection of food and sex. So for me, I find myself saying, well, thank God someone wrote this book. Whereas the people you're talking to may be saying, what's the big deal, Rachel? We already know all this stuff.
Usually, when the topic comes up, people will immediately start offering me examples. Oh, do you write about this? Do you write about that? Do you write about this? Like there was so much material.
You did say, I think, in one interview that at one point this book was monstrously large. How big was it at one point?
I wrote a proposal for the book and it was 25 chapters. There was just so much I wanted to get in there, and I did have to just chop out huge amounts of my research.
Isn't one of the reasons your book is shorter is that you eventually decided on a period of time that you were going to concentrate on, the late 1700s to today, whereas there's a whole world you could have gone into going back centuries and centuries and centuries?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my initial chapter outline, I was like, well, I have to talk about like ancient Greece and I have to talk about like the origins of the kosher laws and like well, I can't leave out the medieval era, right? So I had a lot of things I wanted to throw in there from 2000 years back. And I spoke with my editor and my editor was like, you cannot do that all. You have to focus the story.
Is it your sense that it's already being connected in the Bible with the Adam and Eve tale and the apple? Is the apple already in that representation of something dangerous, something naughty, just like the fact that they're not wearing clothes is, and now they're going to realize they're not wearing clothes, and it started with food, and now they're going to be going off into this world of sin? Is that where it begins?
No, I mean, I think that it begins before then, probably, but I had to begin somewhere, so I begin with the Garden of Eden.
Your book focuses on the Western connections. We stay pretty much with Europe and America, and you start it in terms of really digging into the connections in an intense way with the birth of the restaurant in the late 1700s in France, which just right there was something I didn't know. The very name restaurant comes from what?
It comes from a word for a restorative broth. So it doesn't start off as referring to a place. It's a type of soup that is prepared by chefs in Paris, like in the 1770s. And the idea was that this restaurant, this restoring broth, was going to perk up the vitality, the vigor, the sexual vitality of elite men who, in the style of the time, the idea was like, they were sort of physically weak because they were using their minds so much, right? They weren't hardy like working men. So chefs started serving these restorative broths.
So right away, it's sort of a term that is addressing the libido from the get-go.
Absolutely. Yes. There is the implication that from the beginning that is what is being restored.
And the first restaurants in France are associated with sex by the very fact that they are not only serving food, but offering rooms for sex upstairs.
From the beginning, some of the first restaurants in Paris open in a place called the Palais Royal, which is a popular gathering place for prostitutes at the time. So we're talking now 1770s, 1780s, the late 18th century. And so these early restaurants would have these rooms called cabinet particulier, or private rooms, which would be outfitted with a sofa, a table and chairs, and a door that locked. And so they were places that wealthy men would go and meet with sex workers or mistresses, typically not their wives.
So the very first time you can go out in Western culture and enjoy a good meal, a lovely meal in a place other than your home or someone else's home, it's a place where women are going to feel uncomfortable, where what's going on there is going to be intended to satisfy men. And if there are women there, they're either mistresses of these guys or sex workers.
And especially for Anglo-Americans, then the restaurant really becomes a taboo space. In the 19th century, respectable English women and respectable American women have a very hard time eating in restaurants in the 1800s. There's a lot of restaurants in Britain and the United States that basically ban women or ban single women. And it's an ongoing struggle for women who are not sex workers to gain access to restaurants in the 19th century into the 20th century.
These restaurants are appearing in the late 1700s. In the 1800s, they're really taking off in France. We still don't see much of that here in the United States in the first third of the 19th century. Nothing really going on here, but we have a lot of tourists from Great Britain, from the U.S., who are learning about this restaurant phenomenon in France, reporting back and filling Americans and the British with all sorts of intriguing ideas. This sounds like something that would be lovely to have here because our food is horrible. We go out and we got nothing to compete with what you're describing. They're writing about this extraordinary food. They're not writing a hell of a lot about the sex, but that becomes something that the word gets out on that as well. And eventually, not surprisingly, New York City offers something.
New York City becomes one of the first restaurant cities. So absolutely, there's all this travel literature written by American and British tourists in the 1820s and 30s and 40s, where they go to Paris and they publish books of letters about their trips. And every book of letters has to have a chapter that says, I went to the restaurants and this is what I ate, and this is who I saw, and this is what they were like, because they are this phenomenon that just does not yet exist in the US or in Britain. And in fact, comes even later to London than it does to the US. But New York City really begins booming in the 1830s and 40s after the building of the Erie Canal. And the city is just exploding in size. And there's lots and lots of men living in boarding houses who are coming to the city from rural areas to work as clerks and all of the rest. And so it's a perfect place for a restaurant culture to emerge. And it does so. You get the first really high-end restaurant that is like a French restaurant in New York in the 1830s, and that's Delmonico's.
Well into the 1800s, restaurants are for men when it comes to customers. They're for women if they're sex workers, but they're for men if it's customers. And that includes the people working in the kitchen and the waiters. It's men.
Yes, all of the waiters are men.
So this is a man's world, as James Brown would say. If you're a respectable woman, you probably don't want to eat there, even though the best food in the world is being served there. And that just must have driven certain women mad.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then on top of that, in the 1800s, there really is a stigma about women eating in public at all, not just in the restaurant, but even at like a dinner party. Women were really expected to control their appetites. And so, like, I quote from etiquette books at the time that tell women, like, if you eat an orange, like, eat it with a teaspoon, or if you have a bread roll, tear it up into tiny little pieces, and never ask for seconds of butter sauce. Avoid eating meat in front of men because they'll think basically that you're a slut, that you have some sort of uncontrolled appetite.
It's not just having little bits and holding back. It sounds in a lot of cases like a lot of women just said, you know what, it would be best for us just not to eat in front of men. We'll eat later in the kitchen by ourselves.
Exactly.
And the story, and again, this is in the United States and probably Great Britain as well, but this isn't a French thing. This is here, and it's tied into this Puritan thing, I assume. But it's so extreme, and I didn't realize that until reading your book. It's so pathetically extreme that there was a time when it's fair to say, in general, in the middle class in this country, people really didn't want to see women eating.
Absolutely. And I don't think we're completely beyond that now. And there's social science studies that look, for example, at how co-eds in university cafeterias eat. And they'll find that female co-eds will eat less if they're at a table with a male, this is straight students, like with a male co-ed whom they're sexually interested in. Or there's studies done by social scientists about eating behavior in restaurants on first dates. And they find that like women will on a first date order the lightest thing on the menu, like the lowest calorie things. And part of that is like signaling like that you have your appetites under control. You're not, not a slut, right? Like you're a fit person to be desired for a romantic object. And then men will order typically the most expensive thing on the menu because what men are trying to signal is that they've got the pocketbook or like the wallet to, be a desirable partner. I think probably women listening to this, some of them will recognize that pressure to restrict what you eat in front of men even today.
My brother took out a woman on a first date who didn't eat anything, not one bite of her food. And he was surprised at that. She mentioned she wasn't very hungry. He went on a second date with her, went out to dinner. She again did not eat one bite. That freaked him out so much that it prevented him from wanting to go out again. It just started to seem too odd that she ordered food and wouldn't eat food at all. But listening to you, perhaps something was going on with her that she got the message along the line that this is the best way to handle things, best not eat in front of a guy. But the number of women in your book who had to write about their enjoyment of food in their diary to find a place to express their appreciation for a good meal was also disturbing. And to find how pervasive that was throughout the culture in the 19th century. In the 20th century, what disturbs me is how late in the game men still don't want to see women at restaurants.
Right. I mean, women have to fight legal battles to gain access to men's only restaurants.
There is this idea that lasts and lasts and lasts, separate from women, just in general, in America, that you don't eat for pleasure. And since you don't eat for pleasure, why make the food all that pleasurable? In fact, there is a belief for decades, if not more than a century, that there is no point whatsoever in spending any time on eating other than sustenance so you can get back to work. There is no reason to have sex for anything other than having a kid, and there's no reason to eat for anything other than to fuel yourself for work. And there was never going to be, with that attitude, a good restaurant, because why spend any time working on food? Why give a damn?
Yeah. Right. The United States has this reputation, especially in the mid 19th century, for being a nation of gross eaters. People just shoveling in large amounts of food that's been poorly cooked as quickly as possible so they can get back to the business of making money.
The stigma of restaurants in the beginning being places where you could find sex workers begins to create this connection of restaurants and this immoral behavior. But I found in your book social scientists somehow concocting this theory that if you become as a woman too interested in food, if food becomes something that you think is really enjoyable and pleasurable, you're well on your way to I can't even say it. You're well on your way to becoming a hooker.
Yeah. All right. I quote those French social scientists from the mid and late 19th century who are very interested in like prostitution as a social problem. And they have arguments that basically the women who are inclined towards prostitution are women who have an outsized appetite. So the idea was that for a woman to publicly have this embodied pleasure signaled that she had an uncontrolled appetite sexually as well. And middle class women's respectability was based on their ability to control their sexual appetites. And so a woman who wasn't in control of her hunger for food, the assumption was she also would not be in control of her hunger for sex. She might be unfaithful, she might sleep around.
Hang tight, Rachel. We're going to take a quick break and be back. The book is Lustful Appetites, an intimate history of good food and wicked sex. Are your kids spending too much time in front of their screens? Of course they are. You want to get them outside this summer? Then get over to EcoFun Motorsports in Forest Lake. Those kids would do anything to own an electric scooter, an electric youth dirt bike, youth ATV, all designed to get them into the open air, to get them outside, moving across the ground, taking in spring and summer, feeling alive in a way no screen has ever made anyone feel alive. And while you're at EcoFun Motorsports, you get yourself your own e-bike. They have more variety when it comes to e-bikes than you knew existed. The sophistication of e-bikes is astounding. Until you've ridden one, you really don't get it. I promise you. EcoFun Motorsports in Forest Lake has everything to get you out into the open air and enjoying summer, including Yamaha and Kawasaki motorcycles. Let's roll, people. Summer is waiting for you to join in on the fun, and you'll find the fun at EcoFun Motorsports. Go to ecofunmotorsports.com. Who do you trust to advise you about your retirement savings and how to make it work for you? You have to trust a person if you're going to listen to their advice. You got to trust them. It's your money. It's your life. So who do you trust? I trust Josh Arnold. After 40-plus years of advising people, he's left with an impeccable reputation. That's difficult to pull off. If you don't know what you're doing, that will become clear somewhere in those 40 years. The test of time is a real thing, people. Wisdom gained through the years is a real thing. Josh Arnold is offering you right now 48 minutes free to visit with him about your retirement savings. 48 minutes free of charge. Take him up on it. As opposed to any other advisor you might be contemplating, you will not be sorry. Josh Arnold Investments.
Investment services offered by Josh Arnold Investment Consultant, LLC, a security and investment advisor. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investments involve risk. Tommy Mischke is a paid endorser.
Welcome back. Talking to Rachel Hope Cleves, author of Lustful Appetites, an intimate history of good food and wicked sex. So somewhere along the line, this all-male world of restaurants, male waiters, male customers, shifted. One thing that puzzled me in the book is, as we move into the 20th century and certainly into the later 20th century, an interest in food preparation, special food, certain tastes in food, caring too much, becomes associated with an effeminate man. Somewhere that changed. Is that solely an American thing when it becomes, now maybe we should hand this over to women?
So it is definitely a split between Anglo-American culture, the US and Britain, and French culture. So I don't think the same thing happens in France. What happens in Anglo-American culture is that good food becomes sort of important within bohemianism in the 1860s and 1870s. It becomes linked with like sexual nonconformity. Good food just becomes associated with being sexually illicit. And then that opens the opportunity for sexual nonconformists to embrace good food as like part of their subculture.
Bohemians are basically counterculture, primarily younger people who are going against the culture in many different ways. And the enjoyment of food becomes another way that they can be counter.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Where is the waitress first appearing? Is that a United States phenomenon, Great Britain, France?
The first evidence I have of waitressing as we know it now is San Francisco Gold Rush. 1849, you get thousands of men traveling to the Bay Area for access to the gold fields, mostly single men, right? So they're living in boarding houses, they're living in shanties, they are not cooking, they don't have access to kitchens. You have to go to San Francisco and get your equipment, right, before you go into the gold fields. And so men aren't going to want to be working as waiters at that time because they want to strike it rich in the gold fields. And so as early as 1849, you have examples of women in restaurants in San Francisco acting as servers, and they are basically mining the gold miners. They're making as much money off of the gold miners as the miners are making in the gold fields. And so like you go into the gold fields and you strike it rich, and then you come back to San Francisco and spend. And here are these women who are happy to, help you spend your money. But then where waitressing really explodes in popularity is in New York City in the mid 1850s with the innovation of what were called pretty waiter girl saloons. And so these were musical venues primarily, where women would sing on stage, and one of the operators of one of these sort of music halls in New York gets the idea like, oh, well, when the women aren't on stage, they could be running drinks to the men in the audience. And this, again, is primarily a man's world. It's an entertainment for men. You would not find respectable women attending these concert saloons, maybe sex workers, but not respectable women. And so the women start running drinks and possibly light food to the audience, and it just explodes in popularity. It becomes like this total phenomenon, and all these other concert saloon owners follow suit, and they're advertising in newspapers. They're pretty waiter girls, and the pretty waiter girl becomes this just this total like viral phenomenon. And there's musicals written about her, and songs and plays, and pictures and reportage, and practice spreads everywhere throughout the United States. And you just find it like in every city in the Southeast and the Southwest and the Midwest. And
the guys at the table are having women come up to them with food, women come up to them with drinks, and they say to themselves, I've been waiting for this all my life, man. We got to come here more often. Women come up to my table, beautiful women, and this is lovely. And all of a sudden, word gets out, and guys want to go where women are waiting on tables. And the whole explosion of this is the fact that up till now, it's been a guy's world, including guys waiting on you. That's no fun. So they realize this is an incredible draw.
Absolutely.
I love that they actually have that term. I mean, it seems so ridiculously silly. They actually use those words, pretty waiter girl.
Yeah, the pretty waiter girl system. It takes a long time for this shift to happen where women servers become known as waitresses. For decades, they're pretty waiter girls.
What did the waiter girl phenomenon do to the idea of restaurants being for male customers?
It sustains it, right? Because pretty waiter girls flirt. You might be able to touch the pretty waiter girl on her waist. She might sit on your lap. It just sustains this association between restaurants and sort of sexual disreputability well throughout the 19th century, because now you have this new way sex has entered the restaurant.
You run the tether from way back then to today. It is still considered normal in American restaurants for people to flirt with the waitress. That's part of the deal. And the waitress thinks that her tips might be better with that.
She doesn't think that, she knows that.
She knows that. Okay, she knows that.
I worked as a waitress as a young woman, and I teach at the university here, and I have students who are waitresses. And, I got better tips if I wore a tighter shirt and was more flirtatious with my male customers. And the female undergraduates in my classes now have the same experience. And there's a lot of restaurant managers who hire on the basis of looks. Everybody knows which restaurants do that. Everybody knows which restaurants really encourage their female staff to accentuate their sexuality.
Yeah, I worked at a restaurant in the 1980s where it was made clear by the owner that they were hiring pretty waitresses only. I always wondered if someone could have done some sort of a sting operation for one of the local news organizations, because you could have caught them quite easily. When is the birth of the foodie?
So the birth of the foodie happens in the 1980s. That's when the word emerges. And what I argue in the book is that the word foodie is basically an effort to reclaim gourmet culture from the stigma of homosexuality, that like in the 1950s and even early 1960s in the United States and in Britain, the gourmet really becomes tightly associated with gay men. And so it becomes really like stigmatizing to express a love of food. And then counterculture shakes that up in the way that counterculture shakes everything up in the 60s and 70s. More straight men sort of feel okay expressing an interest in food. And then basically marketing people, business people are like, listen, if we want to sell products to men, and men have the most disposable income, so of course we want to sell products to men, we need to like destigmatize this, right? Like if we want to sell pasta machines and sous vide machines and truffle oil and whatever high-end products we have to men, we need to make it acceptable for straight men to love cooking. And I talk about this famous Forbes magazine article from the early 80s by Frank Lally that makes exactly that point. Cooking is now okay for straight men. And the reason why it's in Forbes is because it's the business magazine, right? The point is that you, the business owning reader, can now market towards men.
Yeah, this is interesting to me. When I was growing up, there wasn't a dad to be found in any direction who would have remotely resembled a foodie. I never found one who could do anything in the kitchen. Today, every one of my friends is a good cook. All my friends are good cooks. All my guy friends are good cooks. I'm the freak. I'm the standout. The guy who doesn't know what to do in a kitchen, never has. If there isn't anyone around making me a meal, I just go down to a deli somewhere and buy it and eat it there. And I see all sorts of mostly old men down there eating by themselves. But thank God for the prevalence of these places that offer pretty decent food just down the block. I mean, I don't know what I would have done 40 years ago, but I think in my dad's era, any guy who all of a sudden was really good in the kitchen would have been thought of as gay.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I remember that change happening as well. Like, I remember the shift to the emergence of the foodie. My dad did not do things in the kitchen.
Now, this gets into this area I also find fascinating, which is women in the later 20th century starting to write about food and being criticized because, once again, you're getting a little excited about food there, kiddo. Boy, you're probably sexually promiscuous too. And I'm talking women who are just writing about, in a Julia Childs sort of way, how lovely and pleasurable food is. And this is way into the second half of the 20th century they're slammed. In fact, in your book, I learn even a woman today, potentially, writing a little bit too excitedly about food would have shots taken at her.
Yeah, I think women still get accused of indulging in food porn. There's still something like kind of pornographic, about women as foodies. But those first women food writers get an enormous amount of backlash, and they're accused of being like mistresses of gastronomical pornography. And it's just their expressions of interest in food are stigmatized in a way that men's just are not. And so I do think that stays with us in the present.
This is one of the women in the 60s writing about food. She mentions that a male friend told her his theory was no woman who's a virgin can cook well. The idea here being, if she's a virgin, she can't cook well because you first have to enjoy those pleasures before you can connect to the pleasures of food. This automatic connection of the two, that's, I guess, when I started this with you, this interview, I said, I just never made those kind of extreme connections. I mean, it's almost as though if you saw someone good in bed, you'd say, hey, I bet you're also good in the kitchen, or vice versa.
I still think that is with us today, that we assume that there is some connection between like your desire for and enjoyment of one bodily pleasure and the other. And so I come back to that story you told about your brother and his date with a woman who wouldn't eat anything. Partly it had to be like an uptightness about exposing that part of herself. I think it would probably be very normal for women on a first date to pick at their food, to not finish what's on their plate, to order something light in various ways to show that their appetites are under control, even if this is all subconscious.
There is, it turns out, so much to say about this, so much to write about this. Lustful Appetites is the name of the book, an intimate history of good food and wicked sex. Rachel Hope Cleves is the author. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Yeah, really, thanks for giving the book such a close read, and it was a great interview. I really enjoyed it.
It's been a great conversation. Thank you.
Oh my God.
I think about American pressure, my favorite name for any business in this country. What business out there using pressure washers regularly would go somewhere else to have them serviced? Someone unaware of American pressure. Because once you become aware, it's the end of the line. No more looking for where to go. What business out there using pressure washers, wanting to update their pressure washing equipment, would go somewhere else? Someone who doesn't know about American pressure. Because, again, once you know, it's over. No more searching, no more seeking, no more wondering. Who goes to anyone else for pressure washer parts? American Pressure is an independently owned and operated Twin Cities operation with decades of experience. They've been around as long as pressure washers have been around. Thousands of parts in stock. And once you know you don't have to go to them, that they can come out to you with service vans, you really can't have it made any more convenient for you. You'll find them in Robbinsdale, and you'll find them at AmericanPressure.com. I've been talking about the Wellshire of Bloomington and Medina, a memory care facility for your spouse or your parent or your grandparent with dementia or Alzheimer's. I want to stress the uniqueness of the Wellshire. The environment there is designed to enhance the independence of your loved one, even in a memory care situation. More importantly, it's designed to decrease your loved one's stress and anxiety. The rooms for residents surround the common space. No long hallways to create issues about which way to go. The staff station is visible as soon as any resident walks out of their rooms. Memory boxes outside resident rooms assist the residents in finding their rooms independently. The living spaces are warm, inviting, friendly, homey. Access to secure courtyards allows people to enjoy fresh air, sunshine, beauty. The community area includes a coffee shop, activity room, ice cream parlor, chapel, bar. Tour it. You won't look anywhere else after that. The Wellshire of Bloomington and Medina. Let's go to the phones, see what's happening out there in the world of listeners. Listeners. It's a funny term. We're all listeners, are we not? Well, Tom, the deaf are not listeners. No, they are not. And I am sorry. I didn't mean to imply that everyone need be a listener. Not everyone sees, I realize that. Not everyone can get up out of their wheelchair. Not everyone's alive. Many, many people we know are dead. People who did nothing wrong, they're just dead. They're never going to be alive again. I mourn and grieve this reality. So many people are dead. I was looking recently at the count of how many dead people there are. By that I mean people who were once alive on this earth and now are dead. It's staggering. A lot of death. And yet we all go on merrily, every day. We go to the ice cream shop. Hey, I'll take a chocolate cone. Hey, thanks. Yeah, it's great. Meanwhile, death. I don't know how we do it. Watching a ball game. Hey, this is fun. Billy, grab a seat. Hey, want a hot dog? Dad, are you aware of how many people have died? Shut up, Billy.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available. At the tone, please record your message.
You say, please record my message. I'm unable to record it. I was thinking that would be your job. Maybe what you could have said is, we will record anything you want to pass along. To put the onus on me is ridiculous. You're the recorder. I am but a voice. I'm hoping you know what the hell you're doing, recording person.
Hello?
Hello there. Are you the recording person?
Is this Tommy?
Yes.
Were you having a conversation with my voicemail? Would that be better than speaking to me?
I don't know who the lady was.
Did she sound nice?
They all sound nice. They lure you in with that, and then, God help me, they bring out the handcuffs. What am I catching you doing, Kelly?
I'm in Bakersfield, California, lovely Bakersfield. I'm here for a concert.
You're in Bakersfield for a concert. I'm hoping to God the concert is going to feature the Bakersfield sound. Are you familiar with the Bakersfield sound?
I can't say I am.
What?
Should I be familiar?
You're damn right you should.
Oh, no. I don't know much about Bakersfield, honestly. Definitely not the sound.
Bakersfield sound is a subgenre of country music. It developed in the mid to late 1950s. Bakersfield, California. It was influenced by rock and roll and by honky-tonk styles of country. The Bakersfield sound, my man, was a reaction against that real slickly produced Nashville sound, which was becoming so popular in the late 50s. It was just a little too smooth for country music. So the Bakersfield sound became one of the most popular and really influential country music genres, certainly in the 60s, initiating a revival of honky-tonk music, influencing a whole bunch of later country and outlaw country music. Oh, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I think the concert I'm going to is at a very historic theater, so maybe I'm sure there's been some Bakersfield Sound played here.
Buck Owens. Buck Owens was part of the Bakersfield Sound. Merle Haggard, part of
Yeah,
the Bakersfield
Merle
Sound.
is, I think he's from Bakersfield, isn't he?
Yeah, born just north of Bakersfield.
Well, Tommy, I know you've kind of said that the 80s have passed you by, but have you heard of the band The Smiths?
It's one of those things where I've heard him in passing.
The singer, Morrissey, is kind of a enigmatic figure.
Oh,
And so I'm seeing Morrissey in Bakersfield tonight.
Okay, I know Morrissey.
So he had the band first, and then he delved into a solo career.
Well, let me know if you see a billboard advertising Buck Owens and the Buckaroos.
Okay, I'll keep an eye out, Tommy. And hey, I got to say, it's great talking to you, and you've practically raised me. I've been listening to you since I was 11 or 12 years old, and I'll be 48 in October.
Oh, dear.
No,
Oh,
I'm
boy.
joking. I'll be 30. I'll be 36, but the sentiment remains. I've been listening to you since I was a kid, and if my Minneapolis public school math is correct, I think 2/3 of my life I've been listening to your show or in some form. So it's really cool to talk to you, and thanks for calling me.
Yeah, and I'll talk to you again.
Best of luck with everything.
All right, so long.
Okay,
Bye-bye now.
Hello?
Anne Marie.
Yes?
Guess who?
I have no idea.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
No. Who is it?
Guess.
Tommy!
Yes.
Mischke! Oh, my gosh! Oh. I should have known with the laugh.
You sure should have.
Oh, my gosh. It's so good to talk to you.
Oh, it's so delightful to hear your voice. Are you up in Grand Marais?
I am just back in Grand Marais about a half hour ago. I was down in the cities at a birthday party burying my mom.
You know how to have a good time at a birthday party. You were burying your mother. Did the other people enjoy it as much as you did?
They sure did.
Who needs pin the tail on the donkey? Sorry to hear about
Yeah.
the passing of your mother. Can you tell me what the situation was? This wasn't a birthday party / burial thing.
No,
Yeah.
she died in January. She was getting buried at Fort Snelling. Her first husband died during the Korean War, and there was no body because he crashed in the ocean. And her second husband, which is my dad, is buried out there. He was also in the Air Force, but they were divorced. So she couldn't get buried with him, they figured out. So then they're backtracking, trying to bury her with her first husband. And they wanted me to find a death certificate, which there is no such thing. When there's no body, there's no death certificate. I found the one and only copy of his casualty report in some random papers of hers that I'd kept. On the casualty report from 1953 indicates that this is also considered a death certificate.
So his plane went into the ocean during the Korean War. She was married to him at the time, and she had to receive a letter. I assume maybe it was a live human being at the door letting her know.
They did that too because they were stationed in Bermuda, and she was there with my 3 older siblings, half-siblings. They came and told her, and then she also got the documentation.
What did she recall? What do you remember her saying about them coming to her door?
She would not talk about it. It was devastating. And that's what I know from my older siblings. They would have been 10, 5, and a baby.
So a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old learned their father had been killed in the war. What did they tell you about that, particularly the 10-year-old?
What she remembers is chaos. It was before my time.
What do you do up in Grand Marais?
Oh, as little as possible. I work at a little one-pump gas station, grocery store, restaurant a couple days a week. I was in the cities with my kids all weekend, and they're like, Mom, you should move back. You should move back. And I looked at a couple places, and then I went into a Trader Joe's before I left this morning. They had a bus full of seniors from Fargo in there. There were about 1,000 people, and I went, no, I'm going home.
No, I get it. I get it. I'm glad I got to check in with you.
Well, I've been really jealous the last couple of weeks because I thought I've heard you call people and I've said, oh, he hasn't called me yet.
Well, one thing people should know who have put their name on my list. Some people I have called and there hasn't been an answer. A lot of people today, if they don't know the caller, they don't answer. And that's why I want people to know that there is a number that they'll see. The number people need to put into their phones if they've been put on a caller's list, they should put into their phones 651-642-4100. It says KSTP if it comes up, but it's Mischke checking in.
I can't tell you. Can I tell you a really quick story?
Yeah.
Okay. My sons now are 38 and 36, but when they were 10, 12-ish, I lived in Minneapolis and they had bedrooms downstairs across from each other and I was upstairs, but we could all hear each other listening to you because everybody get in bed at 10 o'clock because we had school or whatever the next day. But we'd be all just howling all night long. And I finally got up and called you and you sang a song for both my kids. And it was, both the songs were perfect. You made one up for my son, Kevin, and one for my son, Ian. And they still talk, we still laugh about it. So I told them I had sent you my number.
Well,
but that's all we ever did in my house was listen to the radio. So
that's a lovely, lovely image.
That's all I still do. I rarely have the TV on. I never sit down. So that's part of the problem.
Yeah,
so
that's the beauty of this thing. You can listen to me and do something else. I always tell people, TV grabs your full attention. This audio-only thing allows you to listen and go do something else.
Oh, it's great. I can listen and go down to the lake.
I really am glad we connected. I hope to talk to you again. I'll hang on to your number.
Oh, I just adore everything you've done, your shows, your podcasts. I have a lot more to talk to you about, so call me anytime.
You are very kind. We will talk again.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye, Anne.
Bye.
This is Steve.
Steve, this is Dr. Timmons. Lab results are in.
Yeah. I'm sure it's very contagious.
What do you think you have? Because you sound a little happy to be thinking you have what I think you have.
What do you think I have?
Well, let's put it this way. You ain't seeing sunrise tomorrow morning.
What am I going to see?
Your life passing before your eyes? It's over, pal. I'm sorry to have to tell you, but have one hell of a night. Enjoy it as if it were your last. What do you do for a living?
I sell millwork.
Millwork?
New home construction, yep.
You do that door to door?
No. Phone call to phone call.
And when you call a guy, do you say, "Hi, this is Steve, and I'm selling millwork"?
Pretty close to that.
Really? How many guys, when you say that, say, "What the hell is millwork"? I mean, I would if someone called and said they wanted to sell me some millwork. I'd take 10 seconds to knock around what the hell that means. I mean, a lot of things can be milled. Flour can be milled.
But when you're talking to a contractor who's building houses.
But even that term's ridiculous. Who the hell came up with contractor? I signed a contract with Hubbard Broadcasting to do this show. Guess I'm a contractor. What's a contractor? What does that mean? Doesn't mean anything. Millwork, contractor. Why don't you just say you sell a bunch of stuff that people can put together in a certain way and make a house out of it?
Hey, let's go back to the fact that you owe me $100 from 25 years ago on some on-air scam you did raising money for somebody.
Tell me the story of the $100. I don't know what you're talking about.
Somebody had an injured dog, and then somebody else came on, and they had critical disease. And then he said, "Send your money care of Mischke Broadcast." I sent you $100. I know it got cashed.
Yeah. No, that money went to the person. A lot of people sent in money. This was on the radio years ago where we were helping people out every Thursday. We used to help people out. We'd have help night. 1 hour of the 2-hour program on Thursdays was devoted to helping out folks who were struggling out there. They'd call with their problems, and I'd put those problems out into the ether, and listeners would call with solutions, and sometimes solutions meant some cash. You were kind enough to send in $100. I cashed the check because it was written out to me, and I gave the person the money. If you think I took that money and went to the bar with it and drank, I understand, and I'd think the same thing, and I probably did something similar when other people sent in money, but not with your money, no.
So you're saying it was money well spent.
I appreciate you rolling up your sleeves and helping out a fellow human being. That's what we all should do. Lord knows I try to do that as well. We all should. In fact, what you have to do to feel good about yourself, I say, is every week, not every day, but every week you have to look at your week and you have to say, somewhere in there, did I go out of my way to help somebody out? You got to be able to say you did. And I mean out of your way. Something that shows there's a bigger thing going on than you. I think every week you really got to be able to say, oh, yeah, I took some time that one day and really went above and beyond, really did something that was not the most comfortable for me, but by golly, we got to do that.
It's a darn good plan. See if you can get everyone to follow it.
You sound like kind of a no-nonsense guy. I bet right now you're wearing, let me guess, a polo shirt and a pair of Levi's. Am I close?
You're right on.
Look at that. See? It's something in the way you present.
Yeah, well.
Listen, I want to thank you for visiting with me. I really appreciate this chat. I'm glad you answered the phone, and hope to talk to you again sometime.
Very good. My pleasure as well. So feel free to call anytime.
Have a good day, Steve. Bye-bye.
All right. See you, Tommy.
Mother's Day is one of the most commercially successful American occasions we have. Did you know that? Mother's Day. Mother's Day is coming up. It's one of the most commercially successful American occasions we have. It's become the most popular day of the year to dine out at restaurants in the United States. Mother's Day, the most popular restaurant day of the entire year. Mother's Day generates a significant portion of the U.S. jewelry industry's annual revenue. And Americans spend $2.6 billion on flowers. And you know what happens to those flowers? They all die. All of them die. You know how many flowers are dead? Flowers that used to be alive on this earth, now dead? I don't want to even think about that. I wouldn't be able to continue with the show. Americans spend $1.5 billion each year on pampering gifts for mom, like spa treatments. They spend another $68 million on greeting cards. What people don't seem to buy for Mother's Day, well, two things top the list. Lingerie, no lingerie, and industrial cleaning products. The purveyors of those items really hate Mother's Day. Lingerie people, door-to-door lingerie people, or just people who have little lingerie kiosks in neighborhoods, they don't get any business. You're selling flowers, you're doing all right. Lingerie, bye-bye. And cleaning supplies, industrial cleaning supplies, no one's given that as a gift on Mother's Day. You know what I have always felt would be the most popular Mother's Day gift? I don't know if there's a store with this exact name, but if there were, it would steal all the Mother's Day business from everybody. A store called Last Minute Gifts. Last Minute Gifts. My guess is that fully 89% of Mother's Day gifts are last-minute gifts. So if I could, I'd open the last-minute gift store. At least for the month of May I would, and I would rake it in. People could run in, literally run in. I'd have it so they could be tossed the gift as they ran past the cashier, and they could toss the dough my way, and we'd catch the dough, and they could keep on running out the door. In fact, why not make it a drive-through? Last-minute gifts should have a drive-through, but a fast one. No stopping at all, no need to stop. Speed limit sign would read 40, say 40 miles an hour. No worries, just keep moving. Move, move, move. This is last minute. Go, go, go. Get to mom's. Don't even slow down. Go, go, go. Gun it, gun it. Better yet, call us on your way to your mother's. We'll have the gift delivered before you even get there. We'll stick it in a bush out front, and you can retrieve it as you walk up the steps. Hi, Mama, look what I brought you. Look, wait, what? Those bastards. This is a naughty nun Halloween costume with an edible chastity belt. What the hell? Mom, I didn't. This is not what I picked out. Folks, if this happens to you, there's a way to recover. You know what that is? We all know what that is. You go into a neighbor's yard, 1 door over, 2 doors over, and you pick their flowers. You get the flowers they're growing. I did that most of my childhood years. I'd go up the alley, house to house. I'd steal tulips, anything I could find growing. It was hard for me to buy flowers when I was young. I mean, I could have. I had the money, but I needed to spend that on baseball cards. So I'd see these flowers growing all around me, and I'd say, what the heck? They're asking to be picked. It really was a sign of maturity, I think, my maturity, the year I finally went out and just paid cash for flowers. I think I was 50, 51, 52, something like that. Well, I think that's about gonna do it for this show. Another one's come and gone, folks. I don't know how you people do it. I don't. I mean, every week you listen to this show. Do you ever look in the mirror and just say, I listen to Mischke week in, week out, and just get a feel for who you are in that moment, looking into your eyes and having to accept that? And then you still have to find a way to go on. I admire you. I admire you the same way I admire people who volunteer at the U of M medical school, pretend to be patients for the medical school, and get the prostate exams as the different students learn how to do those. A lot of people have to volunteer, and it's not fun. But how else are these med students going to learn how to do a prostate exam if we don't have volunteers? They can't do the prostate exam on a cadaver. They used to, but someone walked in the door, screamed, it got out. People didn't realize they were donating their loved one to the U and that they were being sodomized. Anyway, so now you have to be a live, willing volunteer at the U of M med school. You have to sign saying, yeah, sure, I'll allow them to do a prostate check on me. Sure, no problem. Sounds kind of fun. The fact that there are volunteers who seem a little excited worries me. If I were a med student, I'd want the reluctant guy, but they say most of them are excited. They show up even on the days they're not supposed to be there, Sundays and stuff. There's a line. No med school today. Get out of here. No, that's okay. Do a quick check anyway. Get out. Anyway, we're going to call it a show. I will talk to you guys again next week. Thank you so much for listening. So long.